oyagala kulaba malaalo kulima bijja
Our next money again Mugundi.
Confederation.
Yeah. I think one team would host from there.
Watch the losing the Uganda Cup see agenda. Kuba Confederation Uganda Cup winner yaba representing.
Not really. I think batch clearing. Nti omutabera second yagenda naye still FUFA has
FUFA
that right okusalawo. So esobola okukeera n'ekyuka n'egamba nti akasisi egende.
Akachiri late yasalawo dda.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the weekly Wowos. I'm happy, very, very happy to be back here after being on a bus for the last 12 hours from Kigali, Rwanda. But I had to make sure that I joined the team so that we have another interesting episode of the weekly Wowos. For the last 2 weeks I've been away, but I'm happy to be back. And of course, I'm joined by the usual suspects, all your favorite writers from Kawowo Sports. I'll start off with David Isavirie, our resident, very football expert, longest serving writer of Kawowo. I think when we were even still writing on the blackboard before we graduated to a website, the man was here. And our usual weekly guest, not guest but panelist, Edwin Kalkul. Edwin, please smile. You look he trimmed his beard. I was teasing him that he trimmed his beard. But David and Edwin, happy to have you guys.
Yeah, happy to have you too. It's normally a good gesture to welcome back people who have represented us. I don't know if we should use the word represented us well, but we hope that whatever happened there, Toina Msangogo was this. Otherwise, when I saw an update that there are some Ugandans that have been captured in Kigali, I wanted to rush to Frank and ask,
is our man safe?
Could our man be safe?
Is our weekly host safe?
On finding out, there were TikTokers, and so I knew.
No, we're always very good. I think Uganda, the Kwibuka is a tournament for the ladies, and Uganda, that was actually started as a bilateral between Uganda and Rwanda. Of course, they played to commemorate, the genocide, and it's part of the genocide activities, but towards sports. So Uganda and Rwanda have been very, very good friends since 2014. This was the 11th edition. Uganda only missed one because of COVID. I think it was 2021. We were on the way to the airport and we realized that 10 of the 22 people were traveling were all infected with COVID, and everyone had to go into quarantine and stuff. So, but it's been a very, very good relationship and an opportunity for us to sort of test our national team, not on a because going to Rwanda, we travel there by bus and then it's manageable in terms of cost, so it's been a good experience. But I think kudos to Rwanda Cricket Association who have made sure it's no longer just a bilateral between the two teams. There were 9 nations at this edition. Of course, Uganda finished third, but Tanzania, every time they show up, they win it. Tanzania won the whole tournament. So it was a very good experience for our girls before they go for the qualifiers. And hopefully when they come back here after a much deserved break, they will be able to, to work on the things that didn't go well for them and make sure. But by the time they go to the qualifiers, they are in a good place. But that has been it and wires away. And I'm sure you were able to get all the updates on the weekly Wowos. Let me go straight to the guys and start with Edwin Kalkule. What's your start of the week?
My start of the week comes from the sport of volleyball. The family or the fraternity of volleyball was celebrating a man in Dr. Poru this weekend, and this is a tournament that attracted several teams. You could see the young, the old, and even a team that managed to cross from South Sudan, that is Cobra. We saw players that we think have served the game long, but also we managed to see the coach of Nemo Stars get back on the court to try and shake up and see whether he still has something in and there, though he was part of the losing team in the finals when Nemo Stars fell to the South Sudanese Cobra team, which looked a bit decent, winning that one. And for me, it was about the numbers because in most cases...
Number of teams, number of fans?
No, number of fans. because in most cases we've talked about some of these disciplines, and you wonder how they can be extended further, just not here in the central part of the country, but extend them further to the different parts of the country. And surely this is a tournament that gave it quite a clear picture that even without the courts that are going to look so magnificent, they were just playing on the green, just a normal pitch. But you could see the numbers and you felt the people of that area clearly know what the game means, and they literally celebrate the man. Of course, just after these, some of the players that we saw in that tournament will be crossing to Rwanda in a tournament that has been dubbed the genocide. And I'm sure that is a tournament that we are going to keep our eyes on, because we are going to have players that are Ugandans playing for other teams, but also we are going to have a Ugandan coach who will be taking care of Reg after taking over the job just recently. So we are going to be bringing all the updates on Kawowo, because that is a regional tournament that has brought big names. The PR around it is quite smart, but also the planning is that you want to associate with. So for volleyball lovers and followers, surely we thank everyone that made it down to that tournament where they celebrated Dr. Poro, but also to thank all the organizers. Somehow my team UCU didn't manage to win, but we had quite a decent run. Yeah, just like we normally do.
About charge you for the number of times you mention your alumni on this show.
No, but that is home. So yeah, I'm only representing home, making those people proud. But somehow, for the ladies, our neighbors, Seroma, were the champions. And since they are close to UCU, we shall say the spirit of winning is extending a bit, and we shall take that.
Yeah, I was trying to find out when Kigali we were with Sise Musime. She comes from the volleyball fraternity, and I was trying to find out why Kumi really embraced volleyball, and why Dr. Poro is celebrated in that place. Of course, apart from him being a father to one of the legends that we know now, George Poro. But I was wondering why Kumi as a region has been able to embrace volleyball, and he mentioned that it was his influence in the region that sort of got the game to grow in the place, and attracted a lot of people. So I was I'm impressed actually. Even the time we passed through when we were going to Soroti, you could see, you understand the impact of a sport in a region when people in their casual sport, volleyball is amongst them. So I was very impressed, and I think kudos to whoever makes sure that every year that tournament happens in Kumi. Now the thing should be that since the tournament is organized there and they respect such a man, I think now it should go back to putting up something that is tangible and can be lasting to help maybe the society to build community. more talent of volleyball. Because when you looked at that ground, you felt that is not one that is going to produce the best of talent. And if they can come together with the volleyball fraternity, but also the federation at large, I think they can set up something simple. Have a proper indoor facility or something that can produce the next generation of volleyballers. Quickly, I'll move to David Isabide. David Isabide, your starter for the week.
My week was summarized in two days, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, it was a very busy day for the golfing fraternity. There was a tournament in Kampala and one in Entebbe. And you know, golfers are always sport for choice. For purposes of the action itself, many would prefer the Kampala. Kampala being the green in the capital city. It's longer than Entebbe. And of course, the accessibility to facilities. But still, when it comes to partying, my friend Franklin will testify. 19th hole in Entebbe, it's wow. In fact, sometimes it's the numbers are overwhelming, and they have to cross over to the cricket oval so that they accommodate the numbers. The 18th green was lightened by iron bank, so there is no more darkness to worry.
Oh yes, just besides the cricket oval.
Yes, just beside the
Does that
cricket
mean they
oval.
play at night?
Yeah, they put lights, I think, to a tune of 200 million.
Oh wow.
Only that 18th fairway. So my weekend was
What if your
summarized.
shot is wayward and goes into the trees that are
Of
around
course,
there? What happens?
it's not good enough to play, but at least for security. The golf courses are very, very dangerous places. On Sunday, there was action. Sunday morning, I normally play football, and then I came to American football. They were having a training. They are having a flag off, I think, this week to Egypt. Then evening was big league, the climax. And for proximity, I chose the Entebbe game because all the other games were very, very far. Yumbe, Arua, and Bohimba in Kikube district. Franklin was asking last week where Kikube is located, where Bohimba is located. In Kikube district, it was cut off Hoima. So my weekend was summarized in 2 days, in just Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I think a lot of your weekend involves a lot of sports, and I'll start off with you there. From there, I want to talk about the climax of the Uganda Big League. The Uganda Big League is the league just below the Premier League, sort of our championship, and it's been, I mean, the top team. There's very little to separate the top from even the bottom as well. Because if the top team has 49 and someone who's the first team to get
the first
relegated,
two have 49.
yes, the first the first team to be relegated, I think, which is Busoga, has 30.
Boma.
I think it is Boma. Yes, the difference in the points is not very big. But let's talk about the big league. For me, I've always defined the big league as sort of a regional balance thing that at least you have teams from this region coming through, you have teams from the other region. But let's start with the contenders and start with the promotion fight, because a five team fight is happening. Only 3 can go up,
Yes.
but all the 5 teams have an opportunity of making the cut with just 1 match day to go. David, let's start with the guys who are looking for promotion straight up.
Actually, it is very, very tense at the top. The top 3 only can come to the Ugandan Premier League. Calvary, Bohimba, United Saints, and Gaddafi currently the top 3. But
Gaddafi previously used to be in Ginger.
yeah,
until
but it was taken
Entebbe.
over by UPPC, Ugandan Printing and Publishing. So they shifted base to Entebbe. They've been hosting their home games at the Works Playground, formerly owned by Works FC. But number 4 and number 5.
Is that the ground by the roadside?
Yes, normally it also shared by the rugby people.
Yeah.
Normally when the rugby union is hosting some games, they can also come there and play, especially when Entebbe Mongers can't take the games to the House of Pain. The big league, managers in the big league confess it is one league where it is more expensive even than the Ghana Premier League, because you have to move to Kabale to play Chigezi Homeboys, you have to move to West Nile to play Yumbe, Paida in Zombo, Arua on Duparaka, then Calvary in Yumbe.
Yeah.
3 teams in the north, then in the West Nile. Then in the north you have to play Arua Hill, which shifted base from West Nile to Gulu.
Yeah.
Then you have to cross over to Lira, and you play Black's Power. So basically all those trips, then you cross over to Maida, which plays in Bukedia. Managers confess the big leagues are very, very, very expensive. But coming to the next week, it is going to be very, very tight at the top. 5 of the top 5 can make it to the Uganda Premier League, but only 3 will be considered. Then at the bottom, besides Boma, who are already relegated, the other teams can also make it down to the regional leagues.
Yeah.
And it's not very easy to come up from the regional league back to the big league.
Okay. David, I'm going to put you on the spot. Of the 5, pick your 3. And according with the way you've been seeing things and how form is going, of the 5, who do you think will be able
The
to make
top
it?
team, Calvary, has a very, very difficult fixture at home against Paida Black Angels. It's a West Nile affair. And because Paida also needs the 3 points to come to the Premier League. So, because Calvary is up, I will tip Calvary, because they only need a draw at home. Then the second team, Kiinda Boys, Bohemia Red Saints, play away to Kiinda. Kiinda already is safe.
Buhimba is a team that is coached by
Paul Mark
Twinamasiko, yes.
and of course a veteran
Specialist in
promotion.
In promotion.
And of
How
course,
come he never steps up? I will ask Kyle that later, I think.
they have another coach, Paul Nkata. He's the technical director. Then I tip them to also come because they have the opponent they are playing, Kiinda Boys, has nothing to play for. Kiinda is very safe. The third team,
so you picked Buhimba,
Calvary, and of course Gaddafi. Gaddafi is playing away. Is
it because they're from Entebbe?
No, just because, just like Buhimba, the opponent they are playing has nothing to play for.
Yeah.
So I would believe the league, the top
They
three
play
would
Kataka
remain.
in Mbale or in Entebbe?
The Kataka team in Mbale. It is
Can
one of
be
the
tricky in
biggest. It is
Mbale.
one of the longest serving teams in the big league. After Ndeje was relegated. In fact, Ndeje died a sudden death. Kataka remained as one of the longest serving teams in the big league.
Yeah.
So, and they have been kingmakers of sorts. They definitely dictate who will play. They have two delegates, Latif Mafuko and Chirunda Hassan. And of course, I think they are always contented every time they stay in the big league for political purposes.
Yeah.
So they decide it will be in their hands whether Gaddafi will qualify or not.
Yeah.
Because they are unbeaten at home. Recently they drew with KCC in the Uganda Cup at home, having lost 3-0 at in Lugogo. So basically, I fancy Gaddafi and Buhimba for the reasons the opponents they are playing. They are playing for nothing.
Yeah, okay. Cavalry with a tougher fixture, but you think they should be able to come through that. Kyle, just to talk about the big league, no Kampala teams, no teams from, I think it's supposed to be the central region. But now let's talk about the relegation part. There are a couple of teams there that are fighting for survival. One of them I saw is Busoga United. That recently acquired Coach Charles Ayeko to try and save them. I thought they would actually push for promotion rather than be among the teams that are fighting for their lives.
Yeah, of course, when you look at that red zone, you look at two sides and you feel sad that they find themselves there. That is Arua Hill and Busoga. Simply because you think that these are two sides that you think would easily be in the top tier because of what they've amassed, but also because of how they went down.
Yeah.
Because when you look at Arua Hill, you remember that this is a side that came with a lot of noise, pomp, and glamour, and you felt like, okay, they're talking about...
I blame the media. All the teams that were really hyped up, Odumparaka and Arua Hills, they are now fighting for their lives.
Of course, when you look at Odumparaka's fall was more like because most of I think the guy at Arua Hill took everything. I think they saw spans and plates as well because all the leaders at the club, the key players that you thought about, and everyone then moved to the other side. So then Odumparaka had to now build from scratch, which was not the case. So when Aita Joel left Arua Hill, you felt like it was now a house for anyone to get in. And just like that, they've now hoped to leave West Nile and move to Gulu, and things have not been good. Of course, when you look at the players there, they have some of the players that have been around, but you feel it is not that side that has it all. And because of the wrangles in the club, that's why they found themselves there. I still wonder till date, what took Kabonge from Gaddafi, a team that was going to go up to now a side that is
going down.
Of
course, it was
David,
and this is a man who has always told us that he will take Uganda Cranes to the World Cup. So if there is still such confusion, then us, the people who believe in him now, lose more hope. But when you look onto the side of Busoga, I think it is the same as Arua Hill. The wrangles within the club have really affected them. When this season was starting, there was a merger between them and the Kingdom and then the people around, and they made it clear that it had become a community club. But we all know, for the people that have followed football, it is not easy to run a community club because you're not sure of where the funds are coming from. You're not sure of a budget, who's responsible of what. So people just come in to help, more like part-timers. you don't have someone to hold accountable.
Did Madam Nyago completely dislodge herself from the team?
Of course,
Yeah, Nyago is out.
of course, you will say that he's out, she's out when you sit here, but you cannot take away that name from Busoga. So because you cannot take away that name, keeping her out will always pull a force against the people that are still in the club. And at the end of the day, it's not going to be unity that will take over the club. And we know this is a club that has produced some of the talent that you will ever.
They've come from very far from, I think, Ginger Hippos. Not Ginger Hippos.
Because they were Ginger SS.
Ginger SS, yes.
And
Chilinya Ginger SS.
Yes, and they had quite a good partnership with the school because this is a footballing school that always has young talent to look at, and you're already sure of players that are going to be promoted. So this is a warning to the other clubs that still have it to go. That you should guard your clubs from any wrangles, because it is not always good to have some of the clubs that have held some history, some of the clubs that have put up headlines, and some of the clubs that we followed clearly. Seeing them go down, surely it is sad. But Busoga beat someone 7 this weekend.
I think they beat Boma.
Boma. So we have hope.
They beat an already relegated team.
Yes, and because I'm a friend to Coach Ayeko, I will surely pray that my man doesn't take back a team, because he's such a sour loser.
That means you are condemning Black's power.
The Black's power means for Busoga to survive, Black's power has to lose.
Yes,
has to lose their promotion fight.
Of course, it's going to be interesting, but I just concur with David that I think for the clubs that are in the top 3, I still think those are the clubs will come up.
So do you think Busoga will survive?
I still think Busoga can somehow survive. More so in the Ugandan setting, they can surely survive. But I will surely say I will be so happy if Buhimba come, because I think that has been the most organized club in the big league for just this year. You think they have done things right. They have had their media spot on. Of course, they have had a few wrangles with the coaching here and there, in and out changes, but that is something that we're used to as a country. But I will be happy, and they will give us quite a good derby against Chitara in the league.
Oh wow! We can't wait for that. The final games of this weekend will be on the 20th, 21st of this month. Yes. So make sure you keep it Kawowo Sports for you to be able to find out the details and the predictions from these guys on who is going up and who's going down into the regional leagues. But finally, as we wrap up this conversation, the rebrand for the league trophies continues. I don't know what inspired the design for the big league trophy, but quickly, guys, your thoughts. I've seen David said for him he liked the one for the ladies, and I think I think the Uganda Cup for me was my favorite.
And David has been
the
around.
Uganda Cup trophy was my favorite,
at least for years, to see different trophies.
When you compare the biggest big trophy, the current design for the Uganda FUFA Big League, when you compare it to the previous trophy that we have had since the days of Ndeji, when Ndeji lifted the trophy at Lugogo, the big is somehow better, but the handles of course there are lots of talking points. But the rebrand itself is a very welcome idea. But
even me, I like the idea. I like the idea.
Changing the trophies is a welcome idea.
I thought maybe they could have made it a competition where they invite people and
the designs. I think we have to. I think bid. They have to put an official bid so that people can bring in proposals, because there are very many artists who can come up with very good designs. So
especially for the big league trophy, where the big league connects really the whole of Uganda.
And that big trophy, nobody knows where it will be. Whether it will be at Bohimba, whether it will be at Calvary, or it will be at Mbale Kataka, where Gaddafi is playing Kataka. Because of the competition we spoke about a few minutes ago, the competition is very tight. So
how does FUFA manage a situation like that? For the Premier League, sometimes you feel like it is easy to manage because they make replicas. They make replicas.
So I don't know if FUFA is planning a replica trophy for each of the 3 venues, In fact, an outsider also can win the trophy.
Does that mean they have to have 3 different material at all the 3 different winners?
We are yet to hear from an official statement from Aisha Naule, the competitions director, and FUFA in general. But the biggest trophy, I think, for me, the handles are the ones lacking.
Yeah, I think the detail doesn't look like it was necessary, but I think the whole idea of making the rebrand was a very, very good one, and I very welcome. It's good to see that sports organizations are thinking outside the box, and I really love the rebrand. The design in itself, that is the detail, but there will be a new trophy for the winner of the big league in Uganda, and of course, like I've mentioned, make sure you keep it Kawowo Sports for you to find out all the details on who will be
possibly
coming up.
You can remind the listeners, the viewers, the 3 teams which were relegated from the Uganda Premier League. Wakiso Giants.
Yes, Wakiso Giants,
so
Bale Heroes,
Bright Stars and
Bright Stars.
Bale Heroes.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 which are going down, and we are looking for the 3 coming up.
And somehow you feel for them, because if you look at the teams that are in the big league, they're not very easy. So it's not an easy job for you to go down and come.
Actually, in Tanzania, what they do, the top 3 coming up meet up with the top 3 coming up
in a playoff tournament.
Can get the cream.
Interesting, sort of, but it's not very fair, that one. I think the German Bundesliga does the same thing. But that has been the conversation about the Uganda Big League tournament. The final weekend coming up, the final weekend for the teams coming up this weekend on the June 21st. Make sure you go to Kawowo Sports and read that preview that has been done by our football experts, and find out whether your team will be coming up, or they've made a prediction that you think is not very fair, that your team will be going down. That has been David Isabidi and Edwin Kaukule breaking it down for us. But we'll switch the conversations right now and go to the basketball. We'll switch the conversation and go into the basketball as we welcome our editor, Mr. Franklin Kaweru, to continue the conversation with Edwin Kaikule. First of all, I might have been surprised like everyone else when I saw Ivan Muhwez putting on a Namblazers uniform. Things happen quickly. They are saying goodbye here, and then the other side they are saying welcome. Kyle, what happened?
No, but I think it was just in the waiting, because this is the former captain of City Oilers, and he had not played any game in the first round, but knowing that the man was fit, because the man would come to the court and watch teams, but somehow you felt he was working with a certain kind of players, and you felt he was more connected to a certain base, and somehow that's why it was easy to connect the dots and say, maybe the man is heading to this place. And when City Oilers finally let the man go, he went home.
He went home.
Yes.
No hard feelings, and I think we'll start the conversation from there. Franklin, the mid-season transfers for in the National Basketball League. Do you feel like this is one of those that could make sure that the dictator is removed?
When you look at the business that Namblazers have done the entire season, whether it's off-season, mid-season, I think their business is in trying to overthrow what the basketball people now call a dictator. And of course, in doing that, it was always going to be getting the best players, local, home players. Of course, because of the foreign rule in the league, where you can only field 3, you can have 4, but you can only have 3 at a time.
On your starting 5.
Yes. So it was always going to be a direction that Namblazers were going to take, to have a team composed of largely Ugandan players, and I think, in as far as that is concerned, I think they have done a pretty decent job. They probably have 2 foreigners on the team, 2-3 foreigners on the team, and so they're in a good position to challenge the dictator. I mean, adding Muhwezi in a team that has predominantly guards, you want to think that, of course, in a league where everybody's undersized, if I may put it that way, you can play with 4 guards and just one big man and still thrive in this league of ours. So you expect now Blazers to be the team to beat, at least based off what has happened between the start of the season and now.
I've always thought that for you to upstage City Oilers, if they are spending 10K, you need to spend 100K.
Yep.
Where is Blazers getting all this money?
It's not really about the money. I think at this point, I think it was about one of the things that City Oilers were good at is having the best Ugandan players on their team.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like the Mumbai Indians,
yes,
and the APL, and the Chennai Super Kings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think when that went away a little bit, of course, right now they have home-based players. I mean, Ugandan players. They are not the best Ugandan players outside of Fayed Bali and the MVP Titus Royal, of course, who has been out injured most of the season. The rest of the players are average. To say the least, I think even by our standards, they beat average. And by the way, to see that is you can see you can see how
but still that
how the coach reacts.
Franklin, for you to be able to prize away the best local players means that I'm offering you better than what you've been getting from. But what you've been getting from where you've been.
By the way, it is not even about money. I think it was discontent with most of these players with how they were apparently being treated. Of course, they thought their efforts were not being rewarded to the extent matching their service that they have had with the club.
Is that being in touch with reality, or it's a case of thinking oli wa mugaso nnyo?
Yes, exactly. Not kuba wa mugaso nnyo, because every time you've gone to these continental competitions, it means you have to win back home. And the people who are helping you win back home are the ones saying that, look, put in some extra money to show that enough to fire before we get to the level where you have to bring in some of the other players that are going to come and do the job. So for me, I think Oilers, I think, took some of these players for granted, if I may put it that way. Of course, you get to a place where you're so comfortable and hope that loyalty is going to be the solution to anything. Mbajewala and all that, but it gets to a point where
every man has a price.
We are talking now. Okay, and so I think that is where there was some sort of disconnect between Oilers management and the players, leading to 4 of their best players.
Why did the conversation break down? Because they always seem like a happy family.
Look, you can only take in so much.
Sometimes things like that happen when sort of like a manager leaves, a manager who was the glue between either the management, the owners, and then the players. But I think grace is still there.
Yeah, from what I'm told, there was a lot of stuff that was being kept under wraps, stuff that was being swept under the carpet. So it was just a matter of time that it would explode. And unfortunately, it exploded at the time when the best team to go to is now Blazers.
Yeah.
I would think if at this time the best team was, let's say, Power or whichever, they probably would have moved to Power. So it was not a matter of having money, but it was a matter of who is the best next option.
Are there options for us?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's Blazers in action there. That's some of the action there from the National Basketball League.
Yeah.
It's very available for you on the Kawowo Sports YouTube channel. Yeah. But I'll go to Edwin, still with the basketball. This time I'll allow you to officially speak about UCU, the UCU Cannons and their resurgence.
By the way, when you look at the UCU teams this season, you feel that there is no time you're going to go to the court sure of what the result will look like, because you're not sure of how they're going to turn up, which has somehow not been the case in the previous seasons. Because in the previous seasons, at least you've thought that the ladies team will go far than the men's team. But this time round, while I was starting to think that the men's team would look far better than the girls' team, I think the Friday's game shocked me a bit, because UCU was on a run of 3 victories, having seen sides like Jetty itself, City Oilers, KCC Panthers, and so you felt this is a team that was now starting to have some glue.
You can't list teams that are beaten and you list the Oilers. Everybody can beat the Oilers. At this point in time, the Oilers is in a vulnerable position that if you come
Yeah,
get the result.
but still, because we know them for the history, we shall always think it's a decent side.
History.
So going into the Friday's game, you felt the boys didn't turn up much, and surely congs to the Jetty team and the coach in Sudi Ulanga, because he went into that game after losing the girls' side that lost to KCC Leopards. So I always wonder how coaches then clear up their minds to now turn from the girls' game and the boys' game.
When you're in charge of the girls and then the boys' teams as well.
It's something I always love to ask them, because I think it's why
don't we invite Sudi here? He's been featuring on the show a lot.
Yep.
He needs to tell us so many things. The transition from being a very good player at UCU and then KIU, and then now becoming into he's turning into one of the solid coaches in the league.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get him in for the basketball edition of the weekly Wowos.
Okay.
He has a lot to say. But then I wanted to add on what Edwin said. The thing with UCU is that because they have a high player turnover, almost every year players are moving out and new ones are getting in. The first round is always going to be challenging, unless the majority of players are in their final season with the side. But if they have very many new players coming in, the first round is always going to be challenging for them. And until they get through the first 11, 12 games of the season, you're not going to see exactly what UCU is going to turn out to be. And that is what has happened this season. With the new players that came in, they needed a lot of time to adjust to each other and all that. And it has happened at a time when the first round was just ending, coming into the second round. And right now, I can authoritatively say that if you're talking teams that are going to challenge, for sure, right now UCU is way up there because they can now compete. They seem like they have figured it out, the young boys. And the coach right now finds a solution. And you look at the girls in no world should UCU Lady Cannons be beating, for example, KCCA Leopards, But that win that they got last evening, it just makes you think that, look, once you have a good coach and a coaching players who are interacting with each other every other day of the week, because unlike other teams that are going to train 2-3 days a week, UCU girls and boys are on the court every other day.
It's a proper project.
And so that is it's a team that is going to jail, and once they do, it is always going to be difficult to beat such a team. And for me, I believe at this point, UCU girls and boys, they are right there in the mix.
That's what I wanted to ask Kyle, that I think UCU will always struggle. For example, if Kyle, who has been our top player, is done with his studies, and then maybe he moves over, like Fayed moves from UCU and goes to City Oilers. But when we have Kyle in his first year, we work with him, we assume that in the second year, he's now familiar with his teammates. You have a generation of players who continuously play together, rather than reaching a season where you're clearing house and then you have to have a whole new team of players.
Yeah, but you see, Coach Nick has always come out to say something that I've also bought as a fan. That you see, players have their journeys. It's upon a player to say, for the 3 years I'm going to be at UCU, can I try and shake the table? Because later on, after the 3 years, it's upon you then to choose what your career
UCU
looks
is sort
like.
of a means to one
Yes,
end.
so for him, he has accepted, and it has gone off his mind that he will never have a team together for either 5 or what years. But he always says, for them as a team, they always come out to do the best. And it's always on their to-do list that they are going out to win the title. They will try as far as they can go to see that they achieve something. And when you look at the girls and how they managed to win yesterday's game, you feel that now the fight is starting to come in. And I think Franklin remembers that even the first round game was a bit close.
Yeah.
Yes, KCC went away with it, but it was a bit close. So you feel that now these girls are gaining momentum. And when you look at some of these girls, they get onto national teams when they are a bit younger. You look at now Matrina, who was coming from 3x3. You look at Lamunu. These are players that have gotten the exposure. And still, when you look at their numbers, they will always show you that they are ready to go for it.
Yeah.
Of course, the manner in which the game was won is not that leaves the fun with lots of comfort, because it was won on the last shot. That was a clutch shot by Millicent Otieno, someone who normally comes up whenever those shots are needed late. And that is the same way the boys as well won against the Victoria Crooks. So it's going to be quite a long journey. It's not going to be so comfortable, but I know the team will get better as the season grows. Yeah. And when these two teams reach into the playoffs, I do believe that they will get more better results.
Yeah, let's talk. Those are KCCA Panthers.
By meaning
those are KCCA Leopards and JT Jaguars.
KCCA Leopards.
KCCA Leopards are the women. They beat JT so easily on Friday.
And I was going to come to Franklin about
that.
But
let me just make my point clear to Frank. I'm only saying, because I can tell you, yesterday's wins were wins that leave you on pressure. If you're taking a drink, you will first put it down and say, how is this one ending? Because those are the wins that they call nail biting. You're ending the game and you're just on the edge of a seat because you're winning it by 2 seconds on the clock. And because while the neutrals will enjoy, but for you as a fan, it's quite hard.
It's quite hard.
No, but I'm also telling my fans back in that Munyuere we shall go through.
You should be telling our viewers. But frankly speaking about the KCCA Leopards, there's too much talk about Blazers and JT Jaguars, but they are doing the business as well. KCCA Leopards. What are their chances in this season?
No,
definitely they could be in the playoffs.
The KCCA Leopards have to be again based on the business that they did and how they have looked as the season has progressed. If KCCA Leopards are not in the finals, it will be an underachievement. That's
the finals of the league. That means
yes, that's the women's side.
Yeah.
If they are not in the finals of the league,
course it can't
that would be an underachievement. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the Panthers, the men's side. They had a very good first round. They're playing with
actually
aggression.
Before you move, I was going to say KCCA. There's a time they were warming up in Nogogo, and I saw the netball lady. I think she plays for them.
Maggie Bagala.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know she plays basketball as well.
Actually,
she's a very decent
there's a big story that I'm working on coming up on Kawowo soon. There is a way netball saved basketball, women's basketball.
Oh wow!
In a way, especially at the time when
I've seen Martha Soigi. I think she's played for KCC as well.
Martha is old school. I don't think she still plays netball, but every team in the league has a netballer.
Yeah.
At least one, apart from I think UCU and the young girls of Nabisunsa. But I'm not sure whether the girls in whatever in UCU play some netball as well for the school side, but the rest of the teams in the league have at least one netballer on the team, and that is how much if I say netball or basketball is given chance to netball.
Yeah, netball was how them saved each other.
But basketball provided a platform when netball players didn't have anywhere to go. And
but also at the time, I don't think there were very many basketball players. By the fact that you can accommodate up to 3-4 netball players in your team, it means that now
you didn't have options.
Because now you look at a team like KIU Rangers who have up to 4, I think.
Yeah, but they have quite a big bunch.
You have Florence Nanyonga, Rachel Nanyonga, you have Fieldaus Namlema. Like up
the skills are transferable, right?
Yes, yes. Most of the skills, apart from dribbling, the rest of the skills are pretty much transferable. So, I mean, it's always going to be that. But getting back to the KCCA Panthers, I think they have been under pressure a little bit in the start of the second. When you start the second round with 4 straight losses, that is a lot of pressure that Raymond Mahomes and his team was under. But good enough, they got some weight off their backs this weekend, winning 2 games on the weekend. and so that gives him an opportunity to get back into the conversation that Caesar put them into. Caesar put them into the conversation of challenging, and now they seem to have gotten back on track. Of course, the wins came against, you would say, smaller teams, smaller opposition, but Summit, I think, did some good mid-season transfers, getting in 3 very good players. Of course, as well, JKO Dolphins, which is probably the weakest of the teams that they played on the weekend, but I think Panthers are back on track again. I think these are 2 wins that give them some bit of momentum as the regular season draws to its end.
Yeah, they have that guy. He was from City Oilers. I've forgotten his name.
Caesar?
Caesar, yes. A fan's favorite, as always.
Caesar has superstar status.
Yeah, superstar status. But just to wrap up this basketball conversation, and a reminder, by the way, that do not miss the National Basketball League on Kawowo Sports. Go to our YouTube channel and make sure you subscribe. Every time we're streaming the games, you will get a notification. So that's some of the action from the YMCA one year.
And we should be at Abuja Park this Wednesday for Summit versus Kampala Rockets. That's a very good one to look out for.
All right. You heard it from Franklin, and he's told you there's a big conversation coming up where we shall show you, or we shall let you know how basketball and netball have been able to mutually benefit from each other. But just to wrap up the basketball conversation, Kyle, the story you wrote on the website, and I read it from, good to know that you can read Kawowo Sports from Kigali. But our under-16 boys, when they went to Dar es Salaam, I mean, they were forced to sleep in their Costa and things like that. Not a very good experience for a national team.
Surely, it was not a good experience because we know these are young boys. They can take in less of sorrow. And by the way, just to make it clear, most of these boys they've not grown up here. Some of those boys just came in to join the team, and so when you talk about Bintubi Okubona, they might not be so aware that someone can sleep in a bus and
it's Kawa.
Yes, and
usually the boys and girls that are involved in basketball are not from at the street, if I may put it that way.
We've come from far that things like these
they shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and it was a very sad experience because the team drives from the airport, they send it to a wrong location, and then they tell them there is no accommodation and they have to spend the night in the bus. It was quite tough, and it was clearly evident in the results, more so on the girls' side, that the girls took long then
they couldn't get
to acclimatize and get their minds back.
That can be hot.
Surely, but you can easily see that for the boys' side, we have quite a decent group, which I think that should be monitored well, but also kept together for quite a time. Of course, you appreciate the coaches, Coach Andrew Tendo and the whole team with the work that they are doing, but also the girls. I looked at those girls. For me, Frank, it was about the turnovers. The turnovers were so many. You felt the ball handling was so much lacking. But when it comes to shooting, those girls don't fear to take the long shots. And for someone who has that courage to say, let me go for this, of course, one might say, you don't have to have one weapon of winning the game, that it can easily be swept out and then you struggle to find another. But these are decent talents that can still be taken care of and be improved going forward.
Yeah. You see, Dennis, and one of the things that actually most Zone 5 teams like to come to Uganda is because of the hospitality. In as much as we have hosted these tournaments, I mean, the feedback that you get from all teams, whether it is football, whether it is basketball, volleyball, whatever sport, the teams quite enjoy their time when they come to Uganda. I think the hospitality around the region is so good here that you're not going to see stuff like that happening, because you get to a point of booking a bus for a team from the airport and to check in the hotel, and they dedicate a person who is going to take care of that team, a liaison. And but I can, from that experience that the boys had, you can surely tell there was not a liaison for that team.
Yeah.
Otherwise that wouldn't have happened.
Exactly.
And of course that is a local federation problem. We thank God that of course the boys qualified, and much as they did not have a lot of time. Of course, this team did not have a lot of time to train. I think they had 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, and it was not even in the camp.
It was not in the camp, not residential, but you take the result.
Well,
for
one
sure.
of the things I like what basket was doing in these NIH teams is they found talent, even if it's not in Uganda, but from outside of Uganda, and they somehow bring them together, and they do a very good job for Uganda.
Yeah, that is what happens.
They may be outside Uganda, but they're really Ugandans anyway.
Yes.
It's not like okay, they have some other national team.
And that comes with making whatever the national team a little bit attractive.
Yeah.
Not just to players, but also the parents,
Yeah.
the families of these guys, that they will now be interested in being part of something that is good for the country. And so you have to give FUFA
and even
and
at
the
that,
guys involved.
Yeah, even at that age group, when you play for a national team, I think there are a lot of scholarship opportunities for you. So I think people are mindful of that fact as well.
Yes. You have to give credit for these guys for making sure that first, of course, this started I think in around 2009, where every other underage competition, a team has been involved, at least for a Ugandan team has been involved, girls and boys, with every underage competition. And I think the fruits are now starting to show.
Yeah, amazing stuff there from, I think it's Trish Ivory, she's in charge of youth,
FUFA.
commissioner for the youth at FUFA. But it's been an interesting conversation. Like I've told you, I will keep reminding you, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for you to be able to get weekly updates on when and where we shall be streaming. Frankly, as mentioned, this week will be at Abuja Park. We shall be at Abuja Park as we stream the National Basketball League. Then we're going to be switching up things now and go to the rugby conversation with our resident expert, Joseph Muhumu Zaman. Yeah, our national teams, a lot of national team conversations. National teams have been very, very busy. We have the boys, the rugby 15 boys in Namibia on their way to South Africa. We have the sevens boys going to Mauritius. We've had the girls in Madagascar. So there's been the league took a break, but the rugby didn't. The overball is still moving around. Joseph, I will welcome you. I'm a friend of the Arrogance. I can see you've come here in the Arrogant uniform. I will welcome you back to the league of the big time. Unfortunately, you're affiliates of Wanderers, but Wanderers seem to be going the other way. You guys are coming up.
With his size, you would think he's a good front row.
It's part of the pack of the scrum. But Joseph, maybe let's start with the local conversation. The tournament that's coming to Kampala. The hype has started.
Yes,
that K30K.
Hey, that K30K. I don't even know how to describe it, because personally, I'm lucky I won't be paying. But if I'm to pay 30K, in fact, if any fan is to pay 30K.
First, appreciate Kawowo Sports that you won't be paying.
Thank you, Kawowo Sports, very much. I will be entering on your card, and I'm very grateful for that. But for the fans out there, all the jokes aside, when July comes around, pay that 30K, go support the boys. There will be offers coming around on different platforms. You use them, maybe get multiple tickets for you, and you take your date. Don't be like Frank, who watches rugby alone. So you can buy multiple tickets.
Why is the man coming at me this way? First talk of the game, you are.
Yes, but before you get to July, it has been a very busy weekend, or a very busy June for Ugandan rugby, especially on the international scene. The ladies have been in Madagascar, as you said earlier on, for the past almost 2 weeks. They've been playing the Rugby Africa Cup. I remember that in April, we played the second tier of that competition in Ivory Coast, and we under that promotion to join the big girls, I say. So we joined the big girls, South Africa, Kenya, and Madagascar. We played the first game against South Africa. it was a baptism of fire, as expected. When a team like Uganda that has just been promoted is playing a team like South Africa that is World Cup bound in England later on this year. Then we won our second game against Madagascar, a very beautiful game. Then we lost to Kenya. A loss that I feel like only matters on the score sheet because we actually played better than we did when we played them the last time. We played them in November 2023 and we lost 87-3.
Oh, wow.
And when I was looking at comparing the two teams, I realized that that team that lost to Kenya 87 only about 6 players. There's only about 6 players have been retained to come back to the national team now, including Atina Akelo, who scored the only 3 points of the day back in November of
After fighting to get the ball on the point.
Yes, after struggling with a few teammates that will pick up the ball. You know, when you get a penalty, some players get excited and they decide to quick start and go. But she was like, no, for the pride of the nation, at least let us get 3.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this time we didn't manage to get those 3. But yeah, it was a good tournament overall.
Yeah. Franklin, let's talk about the ladies. Well, they excited us, of course, when they were in... I remember watching that live stream at office. It wasn't the best quality, but we could make out our colors. And then you step up and go to a bigger competition where, you know, you're coming up against the bigger girls, the better teams. But this is a team, again, that has still beat... there are players from the 7th team that have been brought into the 15th team. There's still some work to do for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Could they have done better?
Of
course, against South Africa,
you don't want to ask a lot from the girls. The first thing that sports people need to know, sports fans need to know, is that, like everywhere else, there are levels to this thing. You're not just going to come out of the blue and hit the top. You have to be there consistently, first of all. You have to be in that division consistently, playing against good opposition. Obviously, we won in Ivory Coast because we were better than everybody else. But where we were going was a notch higher. We were finding seasoned opposition, teams that have been playing at the highest level for a very, very long time. And our player was just adjusting to that type of competition, if I may put it that way. And you could see with, especially the forwards, with how easily we were being pushed, whether it is in mauls, whether it is in scrums by South Africa and Kenya. I think we were dominated in that area, and you could see that there is a whole big gap between the conditioning of our players and the South African players and Kenyan players. It is not in terms of size. The size is pretty much almost the same, but the conditioning and the skill of executing that, they are a lot higher than our girls are. And you would think that with that kind of engagement where you're playing with a very good opposition, of course you get to learn a thing or two and then improve as a group. Personally, I think I'm impressed by the fact that we managed to get a win to start with. And
we picked up the balls.
And which we needed to defend so hard. I think the final 5 minutes or so, we had to be on the back foot, tackle after tackle. And I think with that kind of engagement, where the girls are involved with better competition, you're always going to have them get better with time.
Yes, Frank. Just to note another thing is that we haven't been really the best at preparations. Before going to Ivory Coast, the team only had about 3 weeks to prepare. And that, of course, showed on the pitch that they were just playing because they know rugby. But because they haven't been prepared adequately enough to go and play that competition. However, that was the only silver lining, because coming from Ivory Coast, and then going into this tournament in Madagascar, you would say that the tournament in Ivory Coast was sort of a preparation tournament where they got promoted. So that small preparation that they put in before Ivory Coast, then of course the tournament itself, and then they came back and again trained for another 3 weeks. I don't know why they trained for 3 weeks. It's like the magic number or something. It's always 3 weeks. But they trained again for another 3 weeks, and those were the results. At least we got that win against a Madagascar side that has been in Tier 1 and has given teams like Kenya a headache. Of course, South Africa is miles ahead of everyone else in the pack. Yeah, but it was important to get that win, and you know, the
What
only
does
advantage.
does a win have
so
some
the only
rewards to
advantage,
it?
the only advantage or disadvantage this time around, of course, the advantage being for Uganda is the advantage, sorry, being for Madagascar is that this time around, this Rugby Africa Cup, there won't be any relegation. Yes, all the 4 teams that have played this year in the Rugby Africa Cup are going to play again next year in the Rugby Africa Cup. And, you know, usually this Rugby Africa Cup is sort of like a qualifier for the World WXV World 15s for the ladies, which has 3 tiers. So the first team goes to that first tier, like that, and then the 4th team is relegated back to the tournament that we are playing. So winning that game is important for us to know that we can actually do it at this level. Luckily for Madagascar, they won't get relegated this time around, but there is always the next time.
Yeah, the good thing, first of all, is that one, you can see from the union seems to have shifted the energy from the 7s rugby to 15s rugby. And I think that is a little bit in line with what World Rugby is kind of trying to do. There is a bit more focus on 15s rugby. And I kind of like that shift that now at least the girls are going to have a little more test rugby, of course, and the boys as well as they are doing right now down the south of the continent. But the fact that these girls are now going to be exposed to a lot more test rugby because the shift of the union towards 15s rugby, I think has some good signs. I point somewhere very nice in terms of one, you want to be sure that you're emphasizing the skills that by the time you get to the next Africa Cup, the skills are better. You have tested the opposition, you know how strong, where you at the level at which you are, you know what is required there, and now you're not just going to work based off, it is now based off experience. Now you have to work.
And you see, the reason why we got that embarrassing result against Kenya in 2023, it was because the ladies, the 7s ladies had been playing so well, and we had adopted this system where we separate the two teams. And the union, in their wisdom, thought it wise to separate even the ladies teams in a country where by that time the Premiership only had 4 clubs. So you don't really have a big pool to pick to have the luxury of
quality for quality.
14 or 15 7s player, and then
15 players alone. So we didn't have that luxury, and right now of course we have, our hand has been forced with the 7s no longer being a priority even at the international level. And the first time that our hand was forced was obviously that tournament where we were supposed to go to Krakow, Poland. And they said over visas over to innocent. And there was another priority to play in Ivory Coast. So we did the wise thing and went for the Ivory Coast tournament.
The opportunity cost.
Yes, opportunity. Yes, we realized we weighed our options. We weighed our options, and it was better to sort of shift to the 15s and also improve there.
All right, we'll keep following the girls, and of course, Joseph will always be giving you those updates about the ladies and on their next step on their journey in international rugby. But now we'll switch up the genders a bit and move quickly to the men. The men 7s team will be going to Mauritius for the Africa 7s. Let's start from the detail properly. But the story is there on Kawowo Sports. You can always read it. The Africa 7s, the 7s team, it's not the team we were used to in the past. There are a lot of changes from the team that played in South Africa. Are they keeping the same guys as they go to, and what is in it for them? Because first of all, you've told us 7s is no longer a priority. Are we just going to show up?
Well, first of all, for the Ugandan team, the Ugandan 7s, they have the greatest task of going in with the target on their back because they are defending champions. Yeah. They won that tournament last year, and now the first task is to sort of...
Last year in Mauritius still, not so?
Yes, in Mauritius still.
Our team was there, I remember.
Yes, so now the goal is to retain that trophy, which may be a bit hard because now the personnel on that squad has greatly changed. There are
completely.
There are very many young new players that have come in that squad. Apparently, they have been part of, the larger training group that also consisted of the older, more experienced guys that are now being phased out or who are now leaving the program because it's no longer profitable. And they are now playing in the 15s. They are playing. It is more lucrative to play for your club than to be in a
Sevens
setup
to play.
Mubanja. Yeah, so, so the younger players are, of course, easier to manage because, of course, they are young. Their expectations are not so high. Of course, they are contracted, which is a good thing. And yeah, so there is a point I wanted to make about the new players. Yeah, the new players that are coming in, it's obviously good to, sort of get a contract for your talents because you're a young player, you're about 22, 21, and you are playing rugby for fun, but here is a contract for you to play. So I think that also motivates them to also sort of like improve and, sort of going into the tournament ready to fill those very big shoes that have been left by players like Philip Okorachi.
Look, the thing is, with this group, first of all, it is a good thing that they had a little bit of opportunity of playing together at the Kampala Sevens, at least majority of them. So that is some good experience that they had playing there together. One thing that you can't take away is the fact that at least when it comes to sevens, Uganda is up there. They always command. Doesn't matter the type of players that you're going to put out there, but they are going to put up some good show. Of course, with these guys who are just coming up, it's going to be kind of difficult. It's going to be hard for them to go all the way, but you cannot take away the fact that everybody else will be looking up on Uganda as the yardstick for this.
Yeah. Then, of course, when we go down there, is the team out yet? Not yet.
No, the team isn't out yet, but of course, when they were being sort of, was it flagged off? When they were being flagged off, all the national teams together.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could tell from looking around the room who has made the team and who probably won't make the team. Yeah.
So who has made the team and who won't?
Of course, the captains were there. That was Norbert Okenyi and Alex Saturinda. Those ones were assured. Of course, Malcolm Okello was also in the house that day. So you'd expect some of those players to be in that seven squad. Then you also look at the players that played at, that played at Kings Park in the Kampala International Sevens, the emerging sevens. The emerging sevens.
Touch color. They are emerging sevens.
They said emerging sevens, then I saw the team sheet. And I was very sure. How long have these people been emerging?
Maybe we could look at the fixtures from the tournament that will be happening. Alex Saturinda and Robert Okenyi have been around. I think that's a good experience.
But I think the ones that were coming in when the Ian Munyani, Zeron of Roth and Kazito were kind of trying to go into the program, and these were the guys who they were fixing, who were fixing into the program. So right now they are like the big boys, but majority of the guys were just getting into the seventh program a year or two back. So you cannot say that they are solid seventh player like.
But I feel like Tolbert has the experience of being at this level, and that's a benefit for the team because Tolbert has been here before, and guys like Malcolm Okello, they're very, very talented young players. If you can get something out of them, they may not necessarily have the experience of having played as much as Adrian Casitos and the other guys played together, but at least they have the talent, and if you have the coach who knows how to beat up on teams at this level, you could easily, you can find yourself in a final.
Yes, the coach obviously is a very big factor in that squad because he has been around, I think, since 2014. Yeah. He almost has now 4 Africa Cups. Yes, he has multiple Africa Cups under his belt. Then also in that squad, there are very many players who are actually African champions. So it may look like a new squad, but it doesn't obviously lack experience. Yeah. And you also point out the talent, and there are very many young, exciting players to look out for. You mentioned Malcolm Okello, but there are also other players like Patrick Okello. The other players like the twin Arnold Ochen. Yes, very many good, exciting players. Then there is also Dennis Etwao, who was part of that emerging squad, but he's an African champion from 2017.
He has been around for a while.
Okay. Interesting. That African Sevens are starting this weekend, so make sure you follow Kawowo Sports to get all the details. But maybe before we finish, we'll just speak about the boys who are down in South Africa. In Namibia for now. They lost to the Namibia A team. I saw some people not happy with Aaron getting a yellow card. But I think that is all part of the preparation for them. Guys like Aaron coming back into the 15s team, and then, I saw Adrian Casito around as well. So there's a lot of catching up to do, especially as you try and the sevens guys especially fitting into the 15s program?
Yeah, there are some sevens guys who have been in that team and who have also been playing the local 15s on the Ugandan scene. For example, in that starting team, there are players like Pius Ogena, who has been both with the sevens, who is in fact an African champion from last year with the sevens team. He now goes back to the 15s team. There are new introductions like Isaac Newton Masanga, who now crosses over from the sevens to the 15s side again. There are other players like, of course, you talked about the internationals, Adrian Casito and Philip Okorach, who is in India right now, and Adrian is getting a little bit of rest here in Kampala. Yes, but the boys played they played, was it on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yes, the boys played that Namibia side on Saturday in a game that I feel like there are very many positives for us. Of course, the first positive being that scrum, our scrum was very solid against another solid scrum. You'd think that Santos Centers and, of course, Fahad Maido in that front row, which is completed by Edward Emiemi, who also had a very beautiful game.
Yes.
You know, maybe finally the question of the hooker is getting answered because he had some very good throws, and of course Julius Opio helps the case for the thrower when you have also a very good jumper to receive that ball. Then, of course, the other players were the usual suspects. For my case, I think I owe what's his name? Cloud Otema an apology. So,
Mike,
so
make sure you clip this one out. Please let the man first finish. Let the man first finish.
First complete your apology.
Hey, Cloud Otema, I am very sorry. I want to apologize on behalf of my friends, but on my own behalf, I'm very sorry I wasn't familiar with your game. You haven't been at your best lately, but when you went out there, you proved all of us wrong. So kudos to you and keep up the good work.
Yeah, very good man there,
Very good man, a very good man to
Mike,
apologize.
make sure you clip this out very
The thing is,
and package it for Cloud Otema.
like I look at wingers like hookers. Your work is to finish. That is all we need from you. And Cloud Otema is a very, very decent finisher on that wing. Obviously, it's not smooth. You know, people want wingers that are very flashy and know that he's not that kind of winger. But I think when it comes to finishing, and he has good heels on him, you're always going to get that. But what I wanted to focus on is Aaron and the discipline. In international rugby like that, playing with a player down for 10 minutes against Kenya, for example, that we are facing in the first game. And fingers crossed, I hope they cover you in the administration continues such that they come here when they are not ready. But you want to be as disciplined as possible, because by the time you get a yellow card, especially for repeated infringements or dangerous tackle, at this point, the experience you have had as a player, there are yellow cards that you shouldn't be getting because it's not the end of the game. Okay, and Aaron just needs to get his discipline right. The sport discipline right.
And you know, when Aaron came on, he sort of like changed the game because maybe Wanyama was a bit tired, but Aaron came in and changed the game.
Speedy to it.
Yes, the game became a little bit faster. We were actually in control of that game.
Yeah.
Yes, when Aaron came on, then of course that unfortunate yellow card happened. You know, people have been going for his head, but I'm not one of those because I believe yellow cards happen. Yeah. Maybe he's the unlucky one to get it on the day, but yellow cards happen, and of course you get up and you play a game. That's just part of the game.
There's a reputation.
But yes, but also one thing that I may not agree with is going with about 2 scrum halves for the camp. Because you can't tell me that Katoni Kolas is a very busy man in Kampala. He can't travel to stay. Yes, he can't go down to Namibia and South Africa for that training camp. But the other thing, just to roll back a little bit, when we looked at the game that Cloud Otema had, which was a very good game, especially in attack and defense. When we look at that beautiful game, maybe some cynics may think that he looked good because the other winger looked very bad on the day, which is the case. Cloud was good, Sembosi was bad. Those two are unrelated.
You see, if they talk about bad games, but in fact, even at Nambole, I think people went for. Okay, this is my opinion. I think Sems was put into the team too early. I know that he's not talented. I know that. I think he was put into the team a bit too early, and obviously, as I said earlier, is the expectation for a winger is one.
Yeah.
You either finish and then make sure nobody is passing your wing.
Yeah.
The
But you
opposite
see,
is not
when
having a field game.
Sembosi made his debut in 2023 against Zambia in that Victoria Cup, he was actually very good in that game.
yeah.
He even scored a try. I think he also assisted another try to Gokto, or someone who was running that support line that I can't remember. Then you'd have thought that a star is born in that moment. Then we get to this year and they go to Kenya in that Elgon Cup where the team sort of tried and played a little bit, but they were, kicking very poorly, especially for goal. And Sembosi was one of those players who came in to deputize in that kicking role. In a game where Uganda used about 5 kickers.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a show of a lot
This
of
is what I'm going
talent.
to do.
We have very many kickers.
This is what I'm going to do because we're running out of time. Joseph, you just make sure you set up a show to preview the Rugby Africa Cup that will be coming here for our viewers to get to know what should we expect and all that detail. And what should we expect from our team? I think last time a lot of us came out to really support Ugandan because sometimes we didn't know what we were supporting, but as long as Uganda was playing, we go. But in the end, they told us, I think we finished 50.
But at least we represent.
But at least we represented. So maybe this time when the tournament comes back here, we shall give you a full preview of that tournament here on Kawowo Sports, and I'm sure Joseph will put together a couple of his friends just to let you know who to watch out for, who's the weakling for us, which team should we expect to beat, and who are the some of the favorites that will be coming down to Kampala, because that's a passage to the World Cup. So we'd like to end this week's episode on that rugby conversation.
Dennis, you can't end it right here. Okay, let me give you some news.
Yes.
While you're on your way from Rwanda to Kampala,
I already know that.
things were happening at
Fred,
Ugogo.
please, the rest of the show. Let's end this show.
I'm afraid,
here.
Fred, before we go,
Things were happening at Ugogo. Of course, I've watched 4 Wanderers games.
Please
they have
switch off
not
that
won
mic.
any of the
The
4
one
that
in
I've
charge.
attended. In 12 of them, a person has batted and scored a century against Wanderers. That is unseen. And yesterday, an Asbeg was spreading the ball all over.
Please
but
switch off that
on
mic.
the brighter side, Franklin, I want you to say arrogance. Look in your camera and say arrogance.
Guys, expect Makere Impis in the league next season. If there's a team that is going to be shipping in 60, 80, Makere Impis will be there. Very arrogant fellows.
Arrogance.
So we'll be back. That's been an interesting episode of the Weekly Wowos. I've been your weekly host, Dennis Musare, and I've had David Isabile, Edwin Kaikule, Franklin Kawowo, and Joseph Mohomuza on the show. Please make sure, as always, you keep reading Kawowo Sports, and we'll see you again next week.
Yep. Now Wanderers.
Man, win one.
Wanderers.